climbing into the room, the word is first to Maria Hlavajová, Director of BAC.
Thank you, Jonas. Welcome everybody to BAC, Basis voor Actuele Kunst here in Utrecht. My name is Maria Hlavajová. I'm Artistic Director of this place, and it's both great pleasure and privilege to welcome you all here on behalf of my team and myself on the occasion of the opening of the artistic project New World Embassy Azawad, which is brought to life by Mousá Ag Assarid and artist Jonas Staal. This project is a culmination of a proposition that Jonas brought forth in his capacity as BAC Research Fellow this year within the long-term research series called Future Vocabularies, and in particular its entry on the notion of survival. Now, survival at the point when I believe we are parting from the legacy of the modern. And I think that's a point where we, in the world of art and world at large, need to take a momentary pause and rethink that which we are doing. Rethink, retool, reorient, redo, sometimes even undo. And in the field of art, that would very often mean that we simply need to leave behind some of the certainties upon which we based our operation in the field of art and try to walk towards new sort of alliances between the artistic and the political. Now, it has been an extraordinary, if very challenging undertaking to get us to this point. Surely, New World Embassy Azawad is not a typical art project, political art project that would typically try to hide away in the symbolic safety of an art institution away from the world it takes as its own theme. On the contrary, perhaps, it embodies a vision that we formulated for ourselves as BAC, which would be to create a space within which one could negotiate various worldviews, or in other words, perhaps make visible what an ideology or the ideology of the advanced capitalism try to keep unseen, invisible. We have articulated for ourselves at BAC this philosophy as a philosophy of interlocution, of negotiating, of mediating. And I would like to thank Jonas and Mousá for engaging with us on this trajectory.
We're here for the inauguration of the New World Embassy of Azawad. As Maria said, my name is Jonas Staal, and I'm going to try to give you a short introduction to the idea that is at the foundation of this first embassy of the unrecognized state of Azawad that was developed in collaboration, headed by writer and representative of the National Liberation Movement of Azawad, Mouvement National Libération d'Azawad, Mousá Ag Assarid, who's sitting here on the left of me. As some of you might know, I'm also the founder of the artistic and political organization New World Summit. We are an organization of about 10 members who create from the field of art, architecture, design, philosophy, diplomacy, what we call parliaments for stateless and political, blacklisted political groups worldwide. Here you see, for those who really want to exercise and turn around, because there will be many projections on all sides, on that wall you see an impression of the very first parliament that we created in Berlin. We continue to do so in Leiden, in the Netherlands, in Kochi, in India, and we're currently planning the 4th New World Summit in Brussels from the 19th to the 21st of September, where Mousá Ag Assarid will be a speaker as well. And our task has been to explore at what level art can be a space that can develop new forms of cultural and political representation. And as such, we facilitated, here you see some impressions, representatives of the National Democratic Movement of the Philippines, and I saw that its one of its intellectual leaders, Professor José María Sison, is present also here with us tonight. We facilitated the Kurdish Women Movement, the Basque Independence Movement, and this very first summit that took place in Berlin in 2012 was also the first time I had the chance to meet Mousá Ag Assarid, who came there only a month after the declaration of the new country of Azawad. And this new country of Azawad, that is what gathers us here tonight. And many of you might, at this moment, still be unfamiliar with its history. So in short, Azawad is a country north of Mali, about one and a half times the size of France. And then I think only 2 days ago, Moussa said maybe it's better to say it's France and Belgium combined, but I don't think the Flemish movement would be very happy with this explanation. So I'll just say 1.5 times the size of France. Its territory belongs to many different peoples, the Songhai, Fula, Arabs, and Tuareg. After colonization under French rule, at the end of the 19th century, Azawad already witnessed its first rebellions against the French colonizer, which continued after Mali gained independence in the 60s, which was backed, an independence that was backed by French support. The rebellions, mainly led by the nomadic Tuareg, continued in 1963, 1990, 2006, and most recently, and most successfully, in 2012, when Azawadian fighters that came from the crumbling Gaddafi regime, as well as deserted soldiers from the Malian state, came together, came home with their weapons, and declared the new state of Azawad. So that is what the world has been witnessing in these last 2 years. A new but unrecognized state declared independence by a multi-ethnic coalition of Tuareg, Fula, Songhai, and Arab peoples gathered in the national liberation movement of Azawad. Now, in a moment, Moussa Aghasarit will introduce the status of Azawad today, the many conflicts that have taken part since declaring its independence, when its organization, the MNLA, was confronted with jihadist groups in the territory, followed by the French mission Serval in 2013, and the international MINUSMA mission of the United Nations, led by, and for many Dutch people this name will sound familiar, our former minister Bert Koenders. At this moment, 375 soldiers are on Azawadian soil as part of the MINUSMA mission until 2015, the Dutch state investing 150 million until that time, and 50 million years for each additional year that we would be staying there. This already in of itself is a very good reason to be gathered here today and to understand more of the conflicts that the Dutch state has gotten itself involved in. Now, the reason that we are gathered here today, I think, has much to do with the fact that both Moussa and me are artists. Moussa is a writer, I am a visual artist. We come obviously from highly different political contexts. We are shaped by very different histories, but we do both believe that the cultural and the political are related in a fundamental way. And this has created the basis for our exchange in the past 2 years with this project as its result. In the context of the creation of the new state of Azawad, we have referred to this exchange as the art of creating a new state, which is also the title of the book that each of you has gotten upon entry, with a collection of political and cultural texts from the new yet unacknowledged state of Azawad, from its declaration of independence to the work of its artists, its writers, and its musicians. This new state gathers us here today. We're even literally sitting around it. Many of you might not see it because of the seatings that you ended up with, but this table is shaped after the new state of Azawad. It's situated in the larger map of the African continent, of which the lines you see all around you throughout this space. And around us on the walls are photos that Moussa Aghasarit took during the last combats that have been taking place between the MNLA and the Malian army between the 17th and 21st of May 2014. And for those of you who absolutely have no perspective on how this space looks like, this is pretty much the top view of it. Only this summer, my colleague Younes Bouadi from the New World Summit and documentary makers, filmmakers Gabriele Provaz and Rob Schreuder, who I know were sitting there, traveled with the MNLA to the state of Azawad in an attempt to understand the process in which a new state emerges. And this is pretty much the outlook of most of our days on the territory of Azawad. And what we witnessed there was an old state turning into a new one. The Azawadian flag that you see here, painted on the water tower, becoming a kind of collective canvas, covering houses, signs, license plates, water towers, and even uniforms. We realized that in the context of national liberation, the creation of a state, very different than colonial practices of occupation and administration, is first of all a cultural expression. The creation of a state in the context of national liberation is first of all a cultural expression. Here, taking the shape of the murals of artist Mazou Ibrahim Touré, which we had the honor of meeting in Kidal. What we saw in the new state of Azawad were signs, symbols, historical narratives defended by artists and soldiers alike. And thus we witnessed the creation of the new state as something that we would consider as a collective work of art, a horizon, an imaginary of insurgent histories as much as insurgent futures, as Maria corrected me so well this morning. So for this reason, we consider the space of BAC, where we are here, as the ideal space of creating a first embassy for the state of Azawad, as the place where the artistic and political struggle come together, and where we make visible the global battlefield that brings Dutch soldiers from the Netherlands to walk on Azawadian soil today. Now, some of you might ask, and this question has been asked a lot in these past days, is this a real embassy? Do we hand out visas? Or do we hand out passports? Do we have actual political power? Are we recognized by the state of the Netherlands? To those, I would ask a different question. I would ask, is Azawad a real country, even though no other country in the world acknowledges it? I would say that the reality of Azawad, as the reality is of many struggles for self-determination worldwide, is the reality of its peoples. It exists because its people exists, and through them, its heritage, its language, its shared histories, and its images, and the potential future that is gathered in all of them. So if an unacknowledged country can be real, then I would say its embassy can be real as well. Art imagines the world anew, and now it's up to us to act upon what that imagination can bring us, to make a world, as writer Upton Sinclair has so beautifully said. And tonight we do so with politicians, diplomats, academics and journalists here at this table, Mr. Van Dijk, Mr. Zandberg, Mr. Karskens, Ms. Demmers, Mr. Ben Khalifa. Thank you so much for being here and engaging on a critical debate on the birth of a new state. Just like Maria, I would like to thank some people just before I end. I want to thank the team of BAC, again, Maria, Arjen, Niek and Sema, who worked tirelessly and who proves themselves to be one of the few spaces in the Netherlands that have the courage from a cultural practice to do more than simply reflect on the world, but that want to engage in the process in which we can actually start changing it. I want to thank my team of the New World Summit, my head of research and production, Yunus Bouadi, project coordinator René Indemauer, who I think have abandoned the concepts of sleep and weekends and all the things that come with that to realize this embassy and prepare the New World Summit in Brussels. Architects, Paul Kuiper sitting there, designer Remco van Bladel. It was a fascinating process to go in the last month to engage with you on the question how an embassy, an unacknowledged embassy of an unacknowledged country could build a structure for itself. I want to thank documentary filmmakers Gabrielle Provaz, Rob Schreuder. The work that they are doing, a film on the current Azawadian struggle, fragments of it can be seen upstairs on the first floor. We thank them for it, and we thank them for the discussion that they've started with us on how a new media would look for a new world. And last but not least, I want to thank writer and MNLA representative Moussaag Assarid and the many colleagues that you have brought with you tonight, who traveled all the way from France to be with us. It has been an honor to work with you. It's been an honor to have been your guest in Azawad. I sincerely hope you will also continue to do us the honor to contributing to the art of creating a new state. And as you have explained me or exercised with me this morning, to you and your friends, I would like to say, Tanamer imidivan. And it brings me to the pleasure of handing over the word to our chair of this evening, a former war journalist and today a cultural journalist who brings the two worlds together that we've been trying to bring together in this space as well, Raymond van der Boogaert.
Thank you. The idea is that we'll have a sort of roundtable discussion about Azawad and related questions. Before we give the floor to Musa, I'll quickly say who the participants in the discussion are. They are Jasper van Dijk, who is an MP for the Socialist Party in Dutch Parliament. There is Jeroen Zandberg for the treasurer of the Unrepresented Nations and Peoples Organization. What all this is, we'll see later. There's Arnold Karskens, a hard-boiled war reporter, if I may say so. We have Jolle Demmers from the University of Utrecht, the Center for Conflict Studies. And we have Mr. Fatih Ben Khalifa, who is president of the World Amazigh Congress. What all this is, we'll see later. And you will give a short lecture to us, introducing Azawad and the ideals and the struggle over there to us under the title, "The 21st Century Will Be the Century of Peoples, Not of States." Is that indeed? Yeah. Okay, go ahead, sir.
Thank you very much. Ceci dit, la lutte du peuple multiethnique de l'Azawad, parce que c'est important à connaître, à savoir que, comme a dit Jonas tout à l'heure, les Azawadiens ne sont pas que des Touaregs. Il y a aussi des Songhai, des Peuls, des Arabes, et tous ceux qui vivent chez nous, ou tous ceux qui vivent aussi chez eux, sans être de ces quatre ethnies. Donc c'est un peuple qui se bat depuis très longtemps pour vivre librement et dignement sur le territoire de ses ancêtres. Ce peuple se bat non seulement contre l'oppression des hommes, mais aussi contre la dureté de la nature, donc du climat dans lequel les Azawadiens vivent sous lequel les Azawadiens vivent depuis très longtemps. Depuis 1958, on se bat pour exister, tout simplement. Dans le livre que vous allez comprendre un peu l'histoire de l'Azawad et de son peuple qui se bat, mais je voudrais juste vous rappeler qu'il y a eu, en plus des sécheresses qui se passent chaque environ 10 ans, il y a eu des rébellions. Moi, je peux dire qu'il y a eu 3 rébellions. 1963, 1990, 2006, et qui se déroule depuis 2012 une révolution. Depuis 2012, on peut dire que c'est une révolution populaire, multiethnique, pour l'existence de l'indépendance de la République de l'Azawad. Les 3 premières révoltes ont été à chaque fois décimées dans le sang. Et beaucoup des combattants de 2012 sont des réfugiés, des exilés qui sont revenus, soit des pays limitrophes, soit aussi des bien longtemps comme nous qui sommes en Europe, ceux qui sont là. Moi, je suis en France. Je ne peux pas dire que je suis exilé ni réfugié en France, mais c'est tout comme. Ce qui fonde le fond de toutes ces révoltes, c'est cette phrase que vous avez, que demande le peuple de l'Azawad, qui demande à la France, parce que principalement c'est la France qui est responsable historiquement de ce qui nous est arrivé. Et c'est comme ça que depuis 2012, nous demandons à la France de réparer cette erreur. C'est-à-dire en 1958, des notables, des chefs traditionnels de l'Azawad, toutes ethnies confondues, ont demandé au président de la France de ne pas nous inclure dans le Soudan français et d'accepter l'indépendance de l'Azawad. Mais cette demande n'a pas été respectée et c'est devenu donc une erreur historique que la France et l'Europe assument. Ça s'appelait le Soudan français et qui est devenu en 1960, lors de l'indépendance, le Mali. Et donc nous avons été inclus ou annexée par le Mali en 1960 à son indépendance. Il y a eu, après ces révoltes-là, avant 2012, des accords de paix, mais qui n'ont jamais été respectés. Et c'est comme ça que le MNLA, le Mouvement national de libération de l'Azawad, s'est créé dans un contexte géopolitique assez particulier, donc en 2011, en octobre 2011. Lorsque le MNLA s'est créé avec des personnes, des combattants militaires qui étaient dans l'armée malienne et qui ont déserté l'armée malienne, et des combattants de double nationalité, libyenne et azawadienne, donc on va dire nationalité malienne parce que c'est le passeport qu'ils ont, mais en tout cas, ils sont d'origine azawadienne et qui se sont exilés, ou en tout cas qui se sont rendus en Libye, qui ont été inclus dans l'armée libyenne en étant aussi des nationalités libyennes. Quand ils sont revenus, ils ont rencontré ceux qui sont revenus de Bamako, donc du Mali, et bien d'autres aussi qui ne sont pas des militaires comme moi ou tous ceux qui sont ici, pour créer le mouvement national de libération de l'Azawad. Pour permettre enfin au peuple de l'Azawad de pouvoir choisir son destin. Et c'est l'objectif, le but du mouvement national de libération de l'Azawad, l'indépendance de l'État de l'Azawad. Et pour cela, pour une des premières fois, il y a eu un équilibre qui a été mis en place entre la force de l'armée malienne et la force du mouvement national de libération de l'Azawad. C'est-à-dire qu'ils avaient à peu près le même équilibre militaire. Et en plus du fait que la population elle-même s'est mise en solidarité avec le mouvement national de libération de l'Azawad, et le contexte dont je vous parle, géopolitique, c'est le fait que depuis 2002-2003, avec la complicité de l'État malien, il y a des étrangers et aussi des locaux qui sont armés et qui ont un projet politique très différent du nôtre et que l'État malien a laissé proliférer et même à faire des affaires avec l'État malien. Et je veux parler d'Al-Qaïda au Maghreb islamique. Et avant ça, le GSPC, le groupement pour la prédication l'islam, prédication, le GSPC, comme on dit, dans le sud de l'Algérie. Mm-hmm. C'est ainsi que lorsque les combats ont eu lieu entre les deux belligérants, le Mali et le MNLA, nous avons vu proliférer à ce moment-là plusieurs branches, plusieurs ramifications d'Al-Qaïda qui nous ont combattus et avec lesquels nous nous sommes battus à ce moment-là sous le regard silencieux de la communauté internationale. Et on se posait la question, pourquoi ils les battaient en Afghanistan et en Irak, mais chez nous, tant pis, ils ne font rien. Pourquoi ils ne nous donnent pas les moyens de nous défendre et de défendre notre population? C'était les questions que les Azawadiens se posaient. C'est ainsi qu'il y a eu un accord au mois de juin 2013. Juste avant, il y a eu l'intervention de l'armée française. Ensuite, il y a eu la CEDEAO, les armées africaines. Puis, depuis le 1er juillet 2013, les casques bleus des Nations Unies, la MINUSMA, qui sont les soldats africains, se sont introduits, donc sont devenus des casques bleus. Et parmi ces casques bleus, bien sûr, il y a des Néerlandais qui sont aujourd'hui à Gao. Donc c'est ça le contexte aussi de l'intervention internationale chez nous. L'obstination de la communauté internationale, c'était surtout comment faire revenir l'armée et l'administration malienne sur le territoire de l'Azawad, qu'ils appellent abusivement le nord du Mali. Et la France, officiellement, pour son intervention qui a commencé le 11 janvier 2013, l'objectif c'était de combattre les terroristes, les 3 groupes terroristes qui ont attaqué Konna pour aller vers le sud, alors que le peuple souffrait depuis bien longtemps et on n'a pas vu grand-chose. Il n'y a pas eu de corridor humanitaire pour la population, donc il n'y a pas eu d'aide humanitaire vraiment par rapport aux populations. Lorsque ces différentes armées sont intervenues, à un moment donné, elles se sont posées la question, mais avec qui combattons-nous vraiment? Et parce qu'ils ont vu la population qui soutient le MNLA. Ils ont vu la population se battre contre les terroristes. Alors, ils ont compris qu'ils avaient des ennemis communs avec le MNLA, mais aussi un intérêt général, celui de protéger la population. Donc, c'est dans cette situation-là qu'avec les soldats néerlandais, les soldats hollandais et les soldats français et bien d'autres, il y a eu des connexions, il faut le dire, il y a eu des connexions pour dire, si vous voulez, le MNLA dit, si vous voulez protéger la population de l'Azawad, alors nous devons travailler ensemble. Mais quel est l'embarras de ces soldats? C'était le fait qu'ils représentent des États. Ils représentent des États et leur but à partir des États, c'est celui de défendre les intérêts de l'État. Mais le problème, c'est que l'État malien est perclus, c'est-à-dire est handicapé, n'a pas de pieds, donc il ne peut pas s'arrêter chez nous. Les soldats, les casques bleus, mais aussi l'armée française, se sont rendus compte qu'en face, ils ont un peuple qui refuse cette administration et cette armée. Et vous avez cette image, les casques bleus, face à la population qui leur dit « Azawad Malino ». Alors il y a eu un dysfonctionnement, on peut le dire, il y a un dysfonctionnement entre la vérité, la réalité sur le terrain qu'assistent les armées qui sont sur le terrain et les politiques, les États, le Conseil de sécurité des Nations Unies. Et c'est là qu'il faut se poser la question. Sommes-nous des défenseurs des peuples ou sommes-nous des défenseurs d'intérêts géopolitiques ou géostratégiques des pouvoirs au sommet des systèmes d'État? Et ce que je peux appeler l'onde de choc, où le tremblement de terre s'est passé le 16, 17 et 21 mai 2014, lorsque le Premier ministre du Mali, avec une bonne partie de son gouvernement, ont décidé d'aller à Kidal, c'est-à-dire l'endroit où se trouve le quartier général du MNLA. Et là, vous avez, ces images-là ont été prises lors de cette période-là, où finalement, la population a refusé d'accepter le retour et la présence du gouvernement du Mali à Kidal. Après que l'armée malienne ait tiré à balles réelles sur les femmes et les jeunes qui manifestaient, faisant des morts et des blessés, le 21 mai, le gouvernement, le Premier ministre a donné ordre en déclarant sur les médias internationaux, notamment France 24, guerre totale contre le MNLA. Et le 21 mai, il y a eu une défaite cuisante de l'armée malienne à Kidal. Et depuis lors, le territoire a commencé à respirer. Le territoire de l'Azawad a commencé à respirer. Et c'est dans cette situation-là aussi que nous avons dit, mais est-ce qu'on ne peut pas trouver une oreille plus attentive que les soldats des casques bleus? Certains sont bien gentils, bien sûr, comme les Burkinabés, les Hollandais, certains Rwandais, des Tchadiens. Mais y a-t-il pas des peuples ou des personnes de bonne volonté qui peuvent nous écouter, écouter nos souffrances, regarder ce qu'on leur montre? Et c'est ainsi que nous avons pensé à la solidarité entre les peuples. Aujourd'hui, nous croyons plus à la solidarité entre les peuples qu'à la solidarité des États ou des armées. Merci beaucoup.
Okay. Let's get back to the round. Jasper van Dijk, who was an MP for the Socialist Party in Dutch Parliament, spokesman on foreign affairs and culture and lots of other things. And your party was against sending Dutch soldiers to Mali.
I'd like to tell you something about my party's view on military missions in general, first of all. Because my party, the Socialist Party, is very cautious on military missions in general. We've seen several dramatic examples the last 10, 20 years of military interventions, like Afghanistan and Iraq. In our eyes, there was no substantial progress, and sustainable solutions can hardly be reached by military interventions. Today, there's a huge debate going on, everybody knows, about the Ukraine and the IS, Islamic State. And for Ukraine, we don't believe in a new Cold War logic. We defend a few from a distance. Two sides, you can see, trying to get influence in Ukraine. Putin on the one hand, the European Union and the NATO on the other hand, and we condemn both sides and urge for a diplomatic solution. For the Islamic State, ultimately the same logic counts. There is no military solution on the long term. On the contrary, the involvement of the United States looks like a flashback to 2003, when it happens again. And when you read the newspapers, it could happen soon. Now for Mali. Last year, the Netherlands was asked to join the UN mission MINUSMA. And in our party, we had a long discussion because it's a broadly supported mission by the United Nations with a broadly supported mandate. But then the questions came in my party. How realistic is the goal of the United Nations? Restoration of state authority. How to avoid a new, long, lengthy presence of Western countries in this case, an African country.
Sorry, no, I'm just saying to the
Okay.
cameraman. Sorry.
In a foreign country. How about the neutrality or the impartiality of the UN forces when they're cooperating with the Mali government and the Mali army? Who is, after all, the enemy? Who are we fighting against? How can we fight and negotiate at the same time with the same people? After all, reconciliation is needed for all parties, or at least cooperation, well, for all different groups in Mali. So we urge for more humanitarian aid and for diplomatic efforts. And now I heard that in July 24, a roadmap for negotiations is set out. That's what the Dutch government wrote in answer to my questions. I'd like to hear your opinion on that. What are the perspectives for peace, for reconciliation, and for autonomy? To what extent can your demands be fulfilled? Now finally, two things about your new embassy and the country of Azawad. I understand your movement, and I'd like to state that the current borders of Mali were drawn by colonial powers. Secondly, I'd like to state that it's, in my opinion, not to the Netherlands, it's not up to the United States or to my party to define or create new states, especially not the one you're talking about. States are defined by their people, primarily. And to me, if you ask me what is important to me, a sustainable, workable solution is important. And I hope you reach that point soon.
Thank you. To what extent, as a politician, you could imagine sending out Dutch troops or UN in a UN mission, and then supporting a separatist movement like this one is, after all? Is that feasible?
It's a difficult question because, first of all, to to my party, it's important what is the mandate of a mission, of a military mission. Is the United Nations approving it? What are the goals? As I said, the goal of restoring state authority is really an ambitious goal, which takes probably years and years. Look at Iraq and Afghanistan; those were failed missions in my eyes. Can we support a specific group within a country or a territory? It's a difficult question. That's what I'm really curious to hear from you. A bit like your question: how many people are supporting your movement? What's the number of people in the territory behind your movement? Because that is, I think, a very essential point in supporting your movement and creating a new state.
Can you give us the figures, Moussa?
Il n'y a jamais eu de vote d'élection. Alors nous demandons l'autodétermination pour que le peuple s'exprime sur ce qu'il veut, que ce soit ceux de Gao, de Kidal, de Tombouctou, de Ménaka, qu'on puisse, comme d'ailleurs ce qui va se passer en Écosse la semaine prochaine, est-ce que le Parti socialiste ou les États de façon générale ne peuvent pas permettre à des peuples qui se battent pour leur autodétermination d'avoir la chance et la possibilité de s'exprimer. Donc, nous n'avons pas participé aux élections, des mascarades d'élections qui se sont passées pour élire le président de la République du Mali, les députés maliens, mais le jour où il y aura un référendum d'autodétermination du peuple de l'Azawad, à ce moment-là, ceux qui veulent l'indépendance, ils vont choisir, et ceux qui ne veulent pas l'indépendance, ils vont le choisir. Nous, le MNLA, nous le respecterons, et nous demandons d'ailleurs un référendum d'autodétermination. C'est ce que nous voulons. Le MNLA ne prétend pas avoir le soutien de toutes les populations, de tout le peuple de l'Azawad. Nous sommes un mouvement, donc une organisation, comme toute organisation dans le monde. Par exemple, en France, le président français ou le président d'ici, ou le Premier ministre, n'ont pas 100% de la population. Je ne connais pas, surtout dans le système démocratique, quand il y a une organisation qui a 100% de la population. Peut-être que nous aurons 60%, 70%, mais c'est très bien déjà.
Is there a parliament in Mali? The central parliament?
Est-ce qu'il y a un parlement central au Mali?
Il y a un parlement.
Would you, since you mentioned the example of Scotland, would you be willing to participate in general elections in Mali and sending delegates to this parliament in order to further your cause?
Non, pas dans le contexte actuel. Mais si, à la suite des négociations qui se déroulent actuellement à Alger, la solution, c'est-à-dire on s'est entendu sur l'organisation d'un référendum d'autodétermination. C'est une très bonne chose, on verra l'issue de ce référendum. Et puis dire, par rapport à sa question, par rapport à la feuille de route qui a été signée le 24 juillet dernier, actuellement, il y a des négociations entre les représentants du gouvernement du Mali et le MNLA et d'autres mouvements qui sont belligérants, avec le Mali, en négociation à Alger actuellement.
Let's try and broaden the discussion with Jeroen Zandberg, who is the treasurer of the Unrepresented Nations and Peoples Organization, UNPO, which is an organization that has 42 members.
Well, 46 now.
46 now.
Yeah.
Is Azawad...
Azawad is not a member of UNPO, but currently we have 46 members. We are discussing with Azawad, and perhaps we will cooperate with them in the future. I'll like to present my speech.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Good evening. My name is Jeroen Zandberg. I'm representing the Unrepresented Nations and Peoples Organization. I've worked for the UNPO for many years and worked with many different nations and peoples. The UNPO is a membership organization of indigenous peoples, occupied nations, and unrecognized states, so not just states. It was established on 11 February 1991 in the Peace Palace in The Hague. It was established by treaty as an international organization, but by members who are not recognized by the United Nations, like Estonia, Latvia, and government in exile of Tibet. At the moment, we have 46 members, and they differ greatly in what they want and who they are. The members fall into three broad categories, namely de facto independent states, occupied nations and minorities, and indigenous peoples. And I would say that Azawad would not be an independent state, but an occupied nation or minority. To start with the de facto independent states, currently we have 4 de facto states as a UNPO member. They are Abkhazia, Somaliland, Taiwan, and Kosovo. The issues that those members basically focus on are international recognition and economic development. Abkhazia, for example, is recognized by only 4 UN countries, Russia, Nicaragua, Venezuela, and a very small nation, Nauru. And Kosovo is recognized by 108 UN countries, which is still not enough to be accepted by the General Assembly, because you need 2/3 of all the members to be accepted to the General Assembly. It is therefore very hard for a de facto state to become recognized as an independent state by the UN itself. Most of the UNPO members are not de facto states. We only have 4 at the moment, but about 40 of our members are occupied nations and minorities. Some of them strive to become a state, but others look for ways of self-determination in a different way. One of our main principles of UNPO is self-determination, but self-determination does not mean that people has the right to an independent state. There are some criteria for it, and they're also very political. So what we usually focus on when we talk about self-determination in UNPO is in autonomy, internal autonomy within the state, more human rights, more cultural rights, more language rights. And then the third group that is a member of UNPO is the indigenous peoples. So they are the the Batwa in the Central Africa who live in the forests, or the Mapuche in South America. They're usually very few in numbers, usually hundreds or a few thousands, and they have very few resources. They're very dependent on their environment, so our focus supporting indigenous peoples is really supporting the environmental protection and supporting their language and culture. One of the main issues of UNPO is self-determination, but we also focus a lot on non-violence, because it's very important for the UNPO as an organization to function, that the members of UNPO have a non-violent political activity. Firstly, it's very important for UNPO because we need to work in international structures, and if you are not abiding by non-violence, then you cannot lobby for your case. Another reason why we lobby a lot for non-violence is the peoples itself. It's because they don't have the means to be. Many nations and peoples are confronted with state oppression, often via military means. An all too human reaction to physical oppression is to react with force and try to stop this violence. There are many examples, of course, of this in this world. At UNPO, we always try to convince people with trainings and all those things that is almost always a bad strategy, because you can never be equal in that sense, because there's also always a big imbalance of power. So it's always we always try to convince them that it's better to use the international conflict mediation opportunities that are available, because there are a lot of UN mechanisms focusing on human and cultural rights. That's a very important reason why we do that. Another reason why we advocate nonviolent action is because it makes the struggle for self-determination of the people more inclusive. Because violence usually means that the average person is unable to be part of the movement because they don't have the capacity or willingness to be a rebel fighter. This means that the majority then become spectators instead of actors in the struggle for self-determination, which means that the organization usually loses its base, and which makes it much easier for the state to stop any self-determination of their people.
And your aim is to represent the interests of your members, or to lobby for them?
Yeah, it's truly a membership organization, that meaning that it's really the members who decide the strategy. There's a general assembly every 2 years, and then they elect a general secretary and a treasurer to do the executive, and then you have the presidency plus the board, the president plus the presidency, which is the board. And then what we do is, well, we have meetings, we have conferences, we a lot in the European Parliament. And usually we do that based on what they want, because we have 46 members, so a lot of different different questions from them. So really based on what they want. For example, we have few members in North Iraq, like Assyrians, Iraqi Turkmen, and the Kurds in Iraq. So right now we're very busy with that, organizing lobby meetings in Washington, and yeah.
For example, which Kurds would be a member? The Barzani Kurds, or the PKK, or all the Kurds?
No. Well, right now we have the Iraqi Kurdistan as a member and Iranian Kurdistan.
As a territory? As
a territory. And actually they were a founding member of UNPO, so they've been a member since 1991. And currently it's the Kurdish regional government who is a member of UNPO. So they're representing the region of northern Iraq, of Kurdistan. In Iran we have the PDKI. The Kurds in Iraq are not a member, Kurds in Turkey are not a member of UNPO, so not the PKK. Yeah, so we work a lot with the KRG, who is not now a member.
From your point of view, what would your impression be of Azawad as a...
Well, Azawad, it's, of course, it's not a state in the sense that it has really the control of the territory, because that's one of the definitions of a state, that it controls the territory. So it does not fall into that category, but it's really an, well, what we would say an occupied nation from our perspective, or minority. Yeah, what would be feasible right now would be, of course, strive for more autonomy, more cultural rights, more like that, instead of international recognition. Because right now that would be very hard. Because even like Abkhazia, which has been independent for more than 20 years, there are only 4 members of the UN who recognize it. So it's very hard.
You say that you prefer your members to be non-violent, right?
Yeah. Well, we prefer, we demand from
practically every example one can think of is a military organization.
No. It's no. They have to reject terrorism, and non-violence. Of course, it means that it doesn't mean that you don't do anything. It just doesn't mean you should not be focused at military conflict. Of course, like Abkhazia or Somaliland, they all have armies. So in that sense, they can have violence, but they are not. They don't. They don't try to get their objectives through violence. That's not their main thing. So that's non-violence. It's, of course, it's based on the Gandhian principle that we use, but not all the members really abide by it, or we try to do that at least.
Okay. Okay, let's go to Arnold. Arnold Karskens is, as I said, a hard-boiled war reporter and an independent journalist, and
nice guy.
More or less, yeah. But he very principled because he refuses to go on as a war reporter on embedded missions,
Right.
which is why in.
I'm independent.
What is your take on Azawad?
Well, I will come to that. First I want to say some things. You already introduced myself. I am more than 30 years war correspondent, so I visit a lot of unrepresented nations along this time, and I was always very happy to be there for two reasons. Because it's the duty of a journalist to write the sentence that not has been written, so you can always bring some news. And people were always happy to see me, and that not always happens in other places. So I want to make 3 points. I don't want to make it too long. You can always ask me afterwards. 3 points about represented nations like Azawad. It's a point of questions and demands. You know, in this world of journalism, it's always like, you know, the more influence you have in politics, the more attention you get from the media. So you see Barack Obama all the time on the news, even if he plays golf or plays with his kids. And it's for nations like Azawad much more difficult to get this attention, unless you become part of the political game. You saw that with the Palestinians in the 70s, you know, when they were doing these attacks on Israeli soil. Then they get the attention of the media. You saw the same with the Amazighs, the Berbers in Libya, when I was there in 2011, because they were a very strong part fighting Muammar Gaddafi in Tripoli. So, and that time, you know, before that nobody cared about them, but then they become very influential because they were supporting the Western political goal to get rid of Gaddafi. Now you see the same in 2014. The journalists are interested in these small peoples, the small nations, like, for example, the Syrians and the Kurds, because they are a part of the international political game. So, okay, and that's a little bit the problem with Azawad. How do you get the attention? How do you get it? It is the role of the reporter to tell the unembedded story. It is very important to get off the road where all the main media storytellers try to put you on. So it's very important for the media not to follow Barack Obama on his election campaign. You need, for this sort of countries, you know, and it's not only Azawad, but it's in other 45 states as well, is to get those people to tell this story that has not been written yet. And I give you a few PowerPoints how you can do this, get the attention for Azawad, because by this attention, people can discuss about, you know, if it's worthwhile to get this free nation or not. Well, one of the things is organize evenings like this. It's very important to get your struggle here in the Netherlands. So we can talk about it in the sort of table. That's very important. Very important as well, organize trips for journalists, but for artists as well, to show what you have to show. I remember I was in Eritrea in 83, or 82 even. And I was there, it's a part of, at that time it was a part of Ethiopia. And I went there because they invited me. It was very easy to go there. And they were fighting the Ethiopian soldiers. And at that time I was thinking, well, you know, they're fighting, but they will never get the independence. And they got it in 91, because they were supporting the media to cover their story. And that's very, very important to get your message out. So, and if you don't support the media, it's almost impossible to go there by yourself. You need the support. And that is how I got to Azawad as well in March the MINUSMA flew me into Kidal, and we organized by telephone a meeting with the people of Azawad, and they were, showing me around what they had to show. So I could get this message out, what you were trying to goal in your struggle, and how you were take sides in this conflict towards UN and the Al-Qaeda movements. But on the other hand, and that's point 3 I want to make as well, and that's for concerning Azawad, but for all these unprecedented nations, it's that sort of people and countries existed before the first newspaper was printed. So that's what I want to say is, don't exaggerate the power of the media. It's always very important, more important, that you have your own vision, your own goal, and not try to be independent on the media, and especially not the independent media. So if you say, well, we can do it without it, it's the best. But if you can get the help of the media, it's very important, because I always say, as long as a journalist can come to a country, it means at least, it's not a concentration camp. And like now in the Islamic State in Syria and Iraq, they get the people, the worldwide population against them, and you try to prevent them. So open your doors, let them show you have nothing to hide, and then the people can make their own opinion. The international media, the international people, and your own people, they can show what's going on. So the most important thing is your ideology, your goal, and the media will write about it. So that's what I want to say.
To what extent, giving all this good advice, to what extent do you sympathize with the cause?
Well, I sympathize with everybody, with all the nations I've visited, and I've visited about 100 countries, and I'm in favor of the people I'm visiting. Mm-hmm. And as long as I have the idea that the people of Azawad, and I spoke a lot of Tuareg, and they were supporting their own, their own independence. And who am I to say, well, you don't deserve it? And if it's done by a sort of, let's say, honest way, then can I write about it? And if it's not, I have to write it about as well, because that's another thing I always want to say. At the beginning of my career, I visited Central America. You had this guerrilla fighting in El Salvador and countries like that. And I was very pro-guerrilla because I was a left-wing boy, and I was, trying to help them by writing stories that were very in favor of them. But then, after half a year, 1 year, I said, no, I make a mistake. It's much better for an independent journalist to write very critical about these guerrilla movements as well. Because if I am writing very popular and write the way they would like, I would write that they're great people, then I don't give them the advice, I don't give them the critics they need to get a better organization. Mm-hmm. So that's how I write about Azawad as well. The thing is now that there's a lot of people in Gao, for example, that are still very afraid because they say, well, Azawad and Al-Qaeda is almost the same. So you have to distinguish very much from all the extremists, and you have to repeat the story all the time. So the people in, for example, Gao, but in Timbuktu as well, know that you have the best ideas for the future of this whole part of Mali.
Since you've been witness in the area, one of the main, of course, things that has been put forward is that the different foreign troops who are there and who are all supporting the integrity of the Malian state, in fact, have a suppressing effect on the population of Azawad, which would be better off if they would have autonomy. Was this your impression as well, that in fact the foreign military presence is supporting a Malian army that in itself is a war party suppressing the people of the north?
Partly because there was a very good connection between the MNLA and the MINUSMA, because they had regular contacts and we were not shot at or things like that. So, I think the organization was quite well. And the other one is how do people think about the MNLA? That's what you mean?
No. The main accusation here has been actually that the foreign troops support the Malian army and that the Malian army is a suppressive factor.
Yeah, but the thing is, what, and I know it from, I was there before as well, I was in 2000, that in Gao, for example, they are not very pro MNLA, a lot of people, but they even, dislike the government in Bamako as well, because they think, well, we are in the north and we don't get the support we actually should get from the central government. So actually, and the MNLA should use this. They're balancing, they're not taking one side or the other side. So you have all the possibilities to get this sort of people on your side, if you want that, and try that they give them their support to your organization.
Okay.
So that's I just want to say that my opinion is that a lot of people in the north, they dislike what they call the black population in the south, and that's from ages and ages on. So, and I think that's one of the reasons that the MNLA has support from a lot of people in the north, from the Tuareg especially.
Okay. Jolle Demmers, you write and lecture on theories of violent conflict, the role of diaspora in violent conflict, and the ethnographies of neoliberalism.
Well,
what are the ethnographies of neoliberalism?
Well, that's for another session, I think.
That's another session.
Yeah.
Okay.
We need a lot of time
What
for
does
that.
the present debate inspire you?
Yeah, well, I think I'm going to take it a bit, I'm going to zoom out a bit and talk on a more abstract level. Maybe sort of turn the gaze back to the walls around us too. Because I think the gaze of the artist, the gaze of Jonas, and the ethnographer scientist or the anthropologist, the conflict analyst, is really not that different. Both aim to question the categorization the categorizations that we live by, and what we may call a phenomenology of war is very close to what art is about, I think. That is, to look at things, to look at phenomena as if we see them for the first time. That is what I tell my students. Try and look at the world as if you've just landed from Mars. And I'm sure the art students in the room have had that experience too in school. Destabilize stable meanings in the shadow of powerful explanations. Study also the built environment. And question how space generates a certain form of being, a certain form of subjectivity. Who's welcomed and who's expelled? What are the rules of the game? Take nothing for granted and question everything. This project, as I see it, helps us to explore the spatial dimension, as we academics would call it, of the mechanisms of governance deployed by parties in the Azawad conflict to secure their legitimacy, naturalize their authority, and to represent themselves as superior to rivaling political campaigns. Parties in conflicts always are, in a way, constructed entities that are made socially effective through all these imaginative and symbolic devices, through images, and we see them all around us, metaphors and performative practices. Actors in conflict aim to represent themselves as real, as tangible entities with spatial properties, and through that claim legitimacy, because that's what we're talking about here, I think, this evening. And what we see here, in a way, is constructivism stretched to its limits. A phenomena may be constructed, that is imagined, but as soon as people start to act upon an imagined phenomena, it becomes real in its consequences. A large part, I think, of bluffing the state of Azawad is to make it real through mimicking the routines of statehood we see elsewhere in great detail. The paraphernalia of statehood, the flag signaling the border crossing over there, I think a very strong image in the beginning. The newly made stamp in Jonas' passport. The monuments, the checkpoints, they all try and discipline us in a way into the scripts and routines of Azawad statehood. And of course the embassy embodies this idea. Now, the literature on state spatiality offers a new and distinct research methodology well suited to the analysis of the spatial strategies deployed by a whole range of agents in their efforts to produce or erase the notion of Azawad as an independent state. For no doubt that little flag will become a target. It will be seen as a provocation, labeled as terrorist or banditry, and removed, and it will be planted back. Through architectural design, security devices, and multiple bureaucratic rituals and routines, authorities from all sides aim to claim space and produce subjectivities in highly contested ways. And interestingly, they will also do this now in the name of the Dutch public, or in the name of Dutch national security, or in the name of Dutch claims to gas resources in the region. Very important issue. The point of departure of this project, I think, is that architectural forms and our built environments, monuments, bridges, public squares, border crossings, shopping malls, churches, have political and economic impacts on the social systems in which they operate. Buildings, including this embassy, offer cues suggesting how people should act. They tell us about our relationship with one another. The idea is then to read society through its buildings, and in the case of Azawad, its built environment. So how is then space demarcated, appropriated, claimed, and transformed into particular places by different actors? How do individuals and organizations in conflict establish these spatial claims to authority? And how are they adopted, contested, rejected, resisted? The case of Azawad informs us on how control is exercised through the management of space. It reminds me of a lot of other cases of state building and of forms of hybrid states that we at the Center for Conflict Studies research. The Zapatistas in Mexico in the Lacandona jungle, the case of Kosovo, South Sudan, Abkhazia. In all these cases, imagining the state through the production of state effect was of utmost importance. I want you to show you an example of Abkhazia. It's already mentioned earlier. Maybe it's a bit of a difficult region. This is the map of Abkhazia. Abkhazia separated from larger Georgia in the 1990s, and it's one of these frozen conflicts that's still sitting there. And on the next slide, you'll see the highway coming out of Tbilisi, and Tbilisi is the capital of Georgia. And if you look at the sign, you see the sign stating that one of the destinations of the highway is Sochum. And Sochum is the capital of Abkhazia. Now, what we see on the sign is that it makes us feel as if we can travel to Sochum without any problem. This is just a city further down the road within Georgia. So it's a form of imagined access. However, then if we go to the next slide, we enter the bridge crossing the Inguri River. We run, and that's the river that separates the two territories. We run into a fully militarized international border where one is not allowed to enter if not carrying the right papers. So we're subjected into a position of the foreigner and the migrant, and this has been the case since the 1990s. Two remarks I'd like to make in reference to Azawad. What of course is fascinating is to see what are the next steps of spatialization. So what comes after the little flag? First I want to say something about the role of the market. And interestingly, we in the Netherlands or in the former West we see a reverse of state spatiality. Icons of statehood, such as borders, but also railways and post offices and telephone booths and trams and buses, have been privatized and turned into corporate brands. Citizenship here is not primarily realized in relation with the state or the participation in a public sphere. Citizenship rather now entails active engagement in a variety of private, corporate, and quasi-corporate practices, of which working and shopping are paradigmatic. In many ways, we're all stateless. For the role of the state now is to facilitate the market first and foremost. So how to build what kind of statehood in the era of global capitalism? I think that's one of the pressing questions for a new state to think about. And for the second point, I go back to a more classic view of the state. Here the state, Charles Tilly, is seen as an autonomous organization successfully claiming priority in the use of force, a monopoly on the use of violence, within a larger and clearly bounded territory. How and where and when is the use of force legitimate? Who has the moral right to claim this priority? On whose behalf? Who are the people? The most abused word in a lot of politics, I think. For although the ideas presented in this project speak of poetry and art, creating a new state is also about killing and dying. Claiming a territory as one's own, upon which so many interests are projected, as that of northern Mali, Azawad, including those of the Dutch public, will involve the use of violence and bloodshed. It does involve becoming part of a project which is ugly and difficult to control, which is easily corrupted and in need of constant critique. I'm not sure if and how that critique is going to come from us, the consumer citizens of the former West, but we're part of this now. This concerns us directly. And I'd be very interested to see what this embassy is doing to you, the public. What it is that we learn here and what it is that we take away with us. And today is, I think, only the beginning of that conversation. So thank you for joining.
Can I ask you a small question? The idea behind foreign intervention, like the one in Mali, for example, in general, is to freeze the situation, tear out the problem.
But where do you get the assumption from that foreign intervention or humanitarian intervention, a military intervention, is driven by some sort of interest to stop violence? Because that's
in the case of Mali, the idea is to kick out the what they call the terrorists, etc., and restore the Malian state.
But that's a story. That's a narrative. That's a narrative I don't see supported by any kind of evidence.
You don't buy that?
I don't buy that, no. And I think exactly we should be here to question these kinds of stories. This is clearly what I started out with. This is clearly the narrative that's been told to us, that we're going to do good. And I think it's important to question those narratives.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
We'll get to the audience questions afterwards. We have one more speaker. And we'll get back to my Fatih Ben Khalifa. You are the president of the World Amazigh Congress. You are from Libya. You lived in Morocco for 16 years because you couldn't live in Libya, I presume. And then you left for the Netherlands. And you now resumed your dissident activities from Tunisia. But in short, explain to us, what is the World Amazigh Congress? And then, of course, your impressions about this country.
Yeah, good evening, first of all, for everybody. I would like to thank the New World Embassy for inviting me, and thank you again for this great job. CMA, Congrès Mondial Amazigh, or World Amazigh Congress, it's an international organization defending Amazigh rights, and we try through this organization present Amazigh identity and culture. So established in 1995, our organization, our local, it's in Paris. Why in Paris? Because no one of North African countries can already to give us authorization to be or to establish it in our own land. So I am ex-president of this organization since 2 weeks ago. So if I can continue my presentation. So yes,
must have been a mistake.
no, it's great. I'm Amazigh from Libya. When we talk about the Amazigh people, their culture and identity and rights, we are talking about a group of people that exceed 60 million persons living in countries of North Africa. Start from Egypt, through Libya, Tunisia, Algeria, Morocco, Mauritania, and state of itinerary, countries of Grand Sahara, Azawad, Niger, Burkina Faso, and also north of Chad and Sudan. Also Canary Islands, and also millions of Amazigh in Europe and North America. For example, here in Holland you have around 500,000 of Amazigh, but you call them just Moroccans or Muslims or Arabs, because you must you believe that our countries are Arabic ones. In reality, these countries are Amazigh countries, and their people are also Amazigh people, but they are under colonialism and do not have the reins on their political affairs and on the right to express themselves as they are in reality. More than 60 million Amazigh live their daily lives in their own lands according to their historical identity, their mother tongue, and their artistic, traditional, and musical heritage, but are still officially and on a global scale part of Arab world, or part of Mali, or part of Spain. Even in revolutions, the revolutions which are still being paying with their own blood in order to get rid of the Arabic colonialism are still being unanimously called the Arab Spring. In Tunisia and Libya, as our friend said, Amazigh people played a very important role for victory of this revolution. In Egypt, we saw Arabs and Copts. We saw Christians and Muslims, and so many people from Noba. In Syria, there is Kurds and Arabs, Muslim and Christians. In Azawad, Tuareg, Fulai, Songhai. So how come we can call this spring of freedom the Arab Spring? More than 60 million Amazigh are not recognized in the constitutions of their respective countries. None of the regimes in all North Africa, not in Mali, nor in Spain, has official statistics regarding Amazigh citizens. By dictatorship regimes' laws, my people cannot even give Amazigh names to their children, even less for them to demand their independence and the formation of their own independent countries. Why is that? Because they are under colonialism. All colonialism regimes that prevail on the Amazigh land we call Tamazgha, since old history has ended, but the theorists among them, the Arabic and French colonialism still exist. The Arabic colonialism regime still exists because it dominated by force of arms, religion, and Arabic nationalist thought and ideology. The French one because it dominated by force of arms, economy, and political networks. Ladies and gentlemen, explaining the issues that are clear, fair, and legitimate would only increase in their complexity and overlap. This is what's generally happening now in the Amazigh countries of Tamazgha and in Azawad as an example. The international community currently led by France, and countries in the region currently led by the military regime of Algeria, exceed in explaining, interpreting, and intervening in Azawad only to ensure in complexity in order to ensure continued colonial dominance in direct and indirect forms. Azawad people of all beliefs aspire to freedom of self-determination as they see it and as they wish. They are at home and did not assault anyone outside of their soil. Then, by what right would outsiders intervene in their matters? Simply and clearly, those who really want to address terrorism and extremism based in some areas of the desert, why wouldn't they support the people of Azawad? Who wants to address the heavy drug crimes and international traffic business, money laundering, which passes through the Sahara Desert, why not support people of Azawad? Those who want to address the illegal immigration from Africa to Europe, why not support the people of Azawad? Those who really want to support freedom, democracy, and stability in the region, why not support the people of Azawad? So many questions, no answers. Simply put, those who do not want all of this will only lengthen the explanation, interpretation, and analysis, just like France is doing right now, and those that support it among the international community, unfortunately including the Dutch government. Thank you again for the New World Embassy for this great, great job. Thank you very much.
Okay, now we come to the point where the audience can ask questions. Go ahead, sir.
Good evening. My name is Fred van der Kraai. I know Mali from various experiences. I first visited in 1972 and I worked there in the 80s and the 90s, and the last visit was last year. I have a question to our main speaker. I hear you say that you are in favor of the independence of Azawad, and that's obvious from this evening. But at this moment there are peace negotiations. At this moment there are peace negotiations in Algiers, and the official point of view of the MNLA representative is we do not negotiate for independence or autonomy. They have renounced on this issue. Even last year, when Azawad was created in April 2013, a couple of months later, when the region was overrun by the other organizations, the call for independence was withdrawn from MNLA. So my question to you is, who do you represent? Do I have to believe you, or do I have to believe the representatives of MNLA in Algiers? I'm very confused in this moment. Secondly, my colleague here asked you a question on the relations of MNLA with other organizations. Now, in particular, Iyad Agali, you know very well, who signed the agreement of Algiers in 1991. He was also related to the creation of MNLA. Nowadays, he is the leader of Ansar Din. And there were reports that in May, when there were clashes between the Malian government and MNLA, that there were forces of Ansar Din who had joined the fighting. So my question would be to repeat the previous question, that is, what are the relations between people like, for instance, Iyad Agali, who recently joined forces with one of the most sought terrorists in the Sahel, Muqtada al-Muqtar. Last question is that it's very important. What do you expect from Algiers? In Algiers, we have at this moment 3 groupings, armed groupings: MNLA, High Council, HCUA, you were familiar with, and Mouvement Arabe al-Azawad, Arab. They are negotiating with the Malian government. But there are also the CPA, the MCFPR, and another split-off of the MAA. Recently, there was another organization created, MPSA. Well, I don't talk about Mujal, Ansardine or Acme. What do you expect from the region, even if there is an agreement in Algiers, with this proliferation of groups? Thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup pour votre question. Je suis très content qu'il y a déjà des gens qui sont partis chez nous, mais aussi surtout des gens qui sont partis à Bamako, donc qui connaissent un peu le système ou en tout cas la situation de façon globale. Je suis membre de la commission des négociations du MNLA, donc je dois être à Alger en ce moment. Oui, mais je vais y être après-demain, après la conférence à La Haye sur les peuples, les États sans État. Et j'ai été aussi membre de la commission des négociations à Ouagadougou, ces négociations ont abouti à l'accord de cessez-le-feu du 18 juin 2013 qui a permis l'élection du président de la République, l'actuel Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta, IBK. Comme beaucoup d'entre vous, vous savez, une négociation, c'est d'abord une confrontation d'arguments et avec des revendications précises. Le MNLA, je l'ai dit, est un mouvement majoritairement d'indépendantistes. Il y a d'autres mouvements qui sont plutôt autonomistes. Et c'est pourquoi nous avons formé une coordination des mouvements de l'Azawad, dont vous avez cité la liste, qui sont en belligérance avec Bamako. C'est essentiellement donc MNLA, MAA, Mouvement arabe de l'Azawad, et HCIA. HCIA, ce sont les trois mouvements qui ont combattu le 21 mai l'armée malienne à Kidal. Et il n'y avait pas d'Ansardine. Il n'y avait pas d'Ansardine, il n'y avait pas de mouvement classé terroriste, c'est-à-dire ACMI, Moujao, Ansardine, lors des combats de Kidal du 21 mai dernier. Aujourd'hui, pour vous deux, mais aussi pour tous ceux qui vont sur le terrain, nous avons quelque chose que nous n'avions pas avant. C'est-à-dire qu'aujourd'hui, il y a la communauté internationale, en tout cas les représentants de la communauté internationale dans l'Azawad, qui sont témoins de ce qui s'est passé. J'étais le 21 mai à Kidal et j'étais avec les casques bleus et les soldats de l'armée française. D'ailleurs, les corps, excusez-moi, c'est comme ça, les corps et les blessés, ce sont les casques bleus. Nous avons fait appel aux casques bleus pour venir assister donc, à ce qui s'est passé. Donc il n'y a pas eu, comme certains peuvent le faire croire, de présence active d'organisations terroristes, parce qu'il y avait aussi l'armée française. Il y avait les casques bleus aussi à Kidal. Les négociations d'Alger sont assez ouvertes, c'est-à-dire que on verra à la fin sur quoi les deux parties vont s'entendre. Mais nous savons que le président, ou en tout cas son gouvernement, au début des négociations, avait dit qu'il n'accepte que ces négociations, il n'y aura pas d'indépendance, il n'y aura pas de fédéralisme, il n'y aura pas d'autonomie. Mais on va voir, parce que si ça veut dire qu'il n'y a rien à négocier, pourquoi aller à Alger s'il n'y a rien à négocier?
You wanted to make a remark, a short one?
Yeah, friend, I see by your question you have a good background about the area there. So you asked about Ayad Agrali and Mukhtar and Acme. I think you shouldn't ask Eminullah about these people. It's better, and you will find the good answer in Algerian government. There you can ask about these people, not Eminullah. Thank you.
Okay, we'll take, we have sort of slightly round up. Let's take one more question in the... Yeah, okay. Yeah, about art. Good idea.
For Jonas Staal, I wondered, what is your aim? Is your aim to create a work of art, in doing this? Or do you really aim for independence of Azawad? Because that would be interesting. I never saw an artist who achieved a political goal.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, if you've never seen an artist that achieves a political goal, then there's a big problem. because there have been, and we can talk about it later maybe. What is for me crucial about this project, about this embassy, and also about the debate as we've been having it tonight, is that we're talking in a way about the state as a compensatory model. I think that is also what Jolle is partly addressing. So it actually, the question we can ask, that we cannot ask in relationship to existing states, or maybe do not ask enough, is the question we ask continually in the concept of the stateless state. What is a state? How can we define, how do we define the legitimacy of a structure of representation? And I think this question of representation is exactly what ties fundamental question of politics to fundamental questions of art. It's like, what are the conditions through which we are represented? Which interests are these located in? What is the compensatory model in which this process of representation takes place? So for me, what has been crucial about visiting Azawad and working with other groups, other stateless states, is that they are in a way, they are structures that are permanently in construction. Statelessness means that this question, what is a state or what would a state be, what is a people's, is a permanent question. And I think this is also the fundamental problem of the acknowledged state, to come to your second question. That is that in the acknowledged state, we start to forget and separate the concept of peoples from the concept of states. So for example, in the Netherlands, we're now in a situation that is so absurd where people will be able to say, when it comes to, for example, budget cuts in art, that the people of the Netherlands in the majority oppose culture, which is an absurd distinction. Only in an acknowledged state can you separate the concept of culture from the concept of people. And I think this is the essence of the idea of the art of creating a state. That in the case of Azawad, and also when we visited there, I didn't went there to make an artwork. I tried to recognize the idea of the emergent state and of an insurgent history claiming a state in that process as the collective work of art. A collective work of art because the stateless state, different than the acknowledged state, does what art does. It exists, but it also questions the conditions of its own existence. This, I think, is what art can bring to politics. And this, I think, is what politics lacks. The incapacity to reflect on its own presence. And in that sense, I couldn't agree more when Jolle suggested, or Jolle went into the question of constructivism, in the sense of art is not outside the real. I would say a progressive art constitutes a different real. And that real exists as far as we tie ourselves to it, as far as we are loyal to it, as far as we act upon it. So if we are here willing to discuss the construct, the composition of Azawad, it exists as long as we are here and sustain its existence. And in that sense, I would fully second on Moussa's final statement in his first speech. And that is the question, how do we make, by engaging with the question of the stateless state, the 21st century a century of peoples and not of states? And at what level can we think of structures that can overcome the limitations and the lack of questioning and the oppressive dimensions of the concept of the state itself?
Great ending.
Yeah. Moussa, can I ask you for your final impression?
Moi, tout d'abord, je voudrais dire que est-ce que c'était possible? C'était la question qu'on se pose souvent. Nous, dans l'Azawad, est-ce que c'était possible que les autres entendent notre voix, que les autres sachent nos souffrances, que tout simplement les autres sachent que nous existons, même si nous avons choisi un désert pour y vivre. Et ce qui vient de se faire, ce à quoi vous venez d'assister aujourd'hui, moi je considère que c'est historique. Et si les Américains ont fait, en faisant un pas sur la Lune, un pas pour le monde, nous considérons que nous avons fait un pas pour les peuples. Et pour cela, New World Summit, New World Academy, New World Embassy, c'est un cheminement vers la rencontre des peuples. Pour le moment, on est en train de nous faire éloigner et ce serait bien qu'on s'approche et qu'on regarde qu'est-ce qui est commun à nous tous. C'est la respiration, c'est le sang. Nous voulons tous vivre heureux, que nous soyons dans l'Azawad ou que nous soyons à Utrecht. Et moi, je sens, après avoir fait le tour un peu partout, en Europe et ailleurs, qu'il y a quelque chose qui est en train de naître et qui va au-delà du capitalisme, au-delà des intérêts économiques. Ce sont les droits des peuples collectifs. C'est ce qui va se passer dans quelques jours seulement en Écosse, ce qui va se passer, je l'espère, dans quelques jours aussi en Catalogne. Et puis vous verrez que ça va se passer. Et pour terminer, au nom du MNLA, mais surtout au nom du peuple multiethnique de l'Azawad, et au nom de mon équipe, une partie de l'équipe qui est là, et j'excuse le vice-président du MNLA qui n'a pas pu se déplacer, parce qu'il est à Kidal, le président étant à Alger, parce que cette rencontre-là a été décidée depuis 1 an, alors que les négociations, c'est depuis juillet seulement, depuis le 24 juillet, qu'on sait que ça va se passer en septembre. Donc, au nom de tout ce monde-là, et du peuple de l'Azawad, je remercie non seulement New World Summit, Jonas et son équipe, mais aussi BAC, Maria et l'équipe de BAC, tous ceux qui ont cru à ces projets-là. Merci surtout au peuple hollandais, parce que nous considérons que nous avons une reconnaissance du peuple. Parce que ne serait-ce que les 2 organisations font partie du peuple. Donc nous considérons, peuple azawadien, que nous avons une reconnaissance humaine du peuple hollandais. Je ne peux pas ne pas terminer par une pensée aux réfugiés de l'Azawad, aux enfants de l'Azawad, qui n'ont pas accès à l'éducation. Je pense aussi que c'est possible de contribuer au bien-être et vraiment à la vie de ces enfants, de ces femmes et de ces hommes qui souffrent, donc par une aide humanitaire. Donc c'est la demande que j'ai à l'égard de la population, du peuple hollandais, c'est une aide humanitaire à l'égard du peuple azawadien. Merci à vous tous ici d'être venus et je vous souhaite tout le bonheur que vous méritez. Merci. Thanks for being here.